If I could do one thing different, I would tell my past self that something that I realized years later about how our opponents work, that social justice warriors and their ideology is fundamentally based on spite. That most of what they say they want is not what they really want. And most of the unintelligible contradictions in their belief system can be resolved when you realize that their actual goal is to spite their political outgroup. That's why, there can be some movie that we're complaining about and they'll act like it's the best thing ever and anybody who hates it must be a monstrous bigot and so forth. And then the controversy will pass and we'll stop caring about it. And they'll change their minds and either go, yeah, nah, it was pretty mid, or they'll outright turn on it and decide it's problematic somehow. Because the only reason they liked it to begin with is because we didn't. And I think if I'd realized that earlier, and maybe if I'd been able to persuade people in GamerGate of that earlier, it would have been a significant tactical advantage for us, because spite is predictable. And predictable opponents can be tricked into making some serious mistakes.
Do you think that part of the problem is that you say, like, we didn't like this thing? When I was a part of GamerGate, and I always, even at the time, was, like, very much against, like, stuff like that. Like, I was always... Like, I think it's good that video games that are, like, social justice-y exist. Like, Gone Home and stuff like that. I think that's fine. I think that's good. I want the industry to include all types of games.
I think there are certain things that are just dickish when a piece of media markets itself based on trying to piss a certain group off, like the way they tried to market things like Ghostbusters, that reboot in 2016, where, it's fine, I guess, that the movie exists, but if you're going to try to sell it on a narrative based on who it pisses off and based on spiting someone, well, that's not different than, making a movie that's, based on crapping on black people. It's still about ultimately hating a group. And yeah, it may be free speech, but it's free speech for us to say, holy shit, that's awful, too.
I guess where I might take issue is that I don't think, to me, Gamergate was never about disapproving of any specific game or movie or whatever. Like,
I don't
I
think
don't...
that GamerGate is about that, but I think that GamerGate certainly has aggregate average opinion. I think it can be said that the average GamerGater does not have a high opinion of the Captain Marvel movie.
I don't know if you
It
can say
isn't
stuff like that.
somehow...
No, I don't. I don't know if you can. Like, maybe if you did like a poll and be like, oh
Yeah,
well, but even then, I don't see how this is completely ancillary. This is part of the problem with GamerGate, right? You guys want to throw all this stuff in here that's unrelated to GamerGate.
see, I don't think it's necessarily, like, it's not a tenet of our activism. It's just a Venn diagram. The Venn diagram between people who are in GamerGate and people who don't like the Captain Marvel movie is, a pretty big overlap.
Like, again, I don't even know, like, what's the value of being like, oh, GamerGaters don't like this movie? Like, what's the value in that statement?
It's just a question of it being a fact.
I mean, it makes you look like someone who's just like an angry reactionary kind of, doesn't it?
I don't think that's really the case. There's always going to be things people like and don't like.
Yeah, sure, I don't disagree, but like the
But
optics of it
I
are not
also
great.
think that people have every right to take issue with it when a company like Disney just sends its star out to do a marketing tour and just, bash men and bash their political outgroup and stir up trouble. And, people are going to look at that and it's going to color their opinion of the film.
Yeah, I just don't really see like the value in being like, oh well, GamerGaters don't like this thing. Where it's like, I don't think you can like speak for like people in that way. I wouldn't want. Like, I have been very careful in wording the questions. Even like some GamerGate people supported Operation Disrespectful Nod, like others didn't.
Definitely
And
true, but I also think that just, speaking colloquially, people are going to talk about averages and aggregates.
well, it seems like maybe sometimes we talk too much colloquially. Like you say, that we have the right to go against them. Like if they attack us first, well, this amorphous group of like tens of thousands of people who hold opinions, like some of whom are good people, some of whom are bad people, some of whom are assholes, some of whom are nice, and like, well,
True,
they
but it's
went after me,
also
therefore
it's
I
also
have the right to respond to that. I mean, it seems kind of like not great.
that's
Like, why don't we just
true,
talk
but it's
about people on
also
an
a
individual
reality
basis?
of politics. It's a reality of politics that people form into, well, in their formal structure, parties. You could say that in this debate, Gamergate and anti-Gamergate are de facto political parties to an internet clusterfuck. And yeah, those political parties and tribes and movements and stuff like that become sort of aggregate entities, which know, every single person who supports it doesn't support every single other person and every single idea that the party ever has. But, politics is a team sport. And I don't think even at a national level, any country has come up with a way to make effective politics truly individualized and not result in the creation of these parties or tribes. Like, in an abstract sense, I agree with you that we would probably be better off if that weren't a thing, but it's a problem so much bigger than Gamergate, and I don't think it's going to be a bunch of people on the internet arguing about video games who solve that problem and come up with the biggest leap forward in how politics is conducted since the Enlightenment.
Obviously, I don't think there's anything wrong with working with other people in groups to achieve goals that you think are important. And I think that's probably like naturally going to happen in any large society and probably even like in small societies. But but like there's ways you can like amplify the us versus them kind of mindset, and there's ways that you can like minimize it. And I think that like when you operate in the world, the ways in which you minimize it or the ways in which you have opportunities to minimize it like should generally be taken. Like I'm operating in this space as a streamer and a political streamer. Like, I want to do politics. I want to talk about Ukraine. I want to talk about the election. I want to talk about other stuff. And when I interact with people in this space, like, I don't be like, oh, well, you're a conservative, therefore you believe X, Y, Z. Like, I just treat them like a human.
See, I see it as the etiquette to me is don't mistreat individuals for the actions of these broad groups. Let every individual be an individual. But it's okay and pretty much inevitable to speak in somewhat broad strokes about the groups themselves, as long as you try to be accurate to, their aggregate beliefs and to what the popular views among them would be, instead of just, cherry picking the best or the worst depending on whether you agree with them or disagree with them. I think that's a reasonable cultural shorthand, or something like a movie. I don't think I have to give the benefit of the doubt and innocent until proven guilty type stuff to a corporate product made by some international megacorp like Disney. I think I can just, I can go with my gut opinion on a movie. What, am I going to offend the movie?